What if I told you that planning a simple 4-day weekend, just a few hours from your house, now requires the exact same level of, like, spreadsheet wizardry and emotional stamina as a month-long trek across Europe?
I mean, it sounds like an exaggeration, but it is entirely true.
Right, because there is this incredibly common, comforting illusion we all buy into, the idea that because a trip is geographically close to you and brief in duration, it's naturally going to require less planning.
And critically, less money.
Yes,
Uh,
exactly. You think, well, it's just a long weekend away, right? How
Yes.
complicated can it really be?
We constantly convince ourselves that brevity equals simplicity.
Ah,
But the current landscape of travel economics really does not reward spontaneity the way it used to.
no, it really doesn't. Which brings us to today. Welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission today is to completely dissect this eye-opening travel case study that was published in June 2026 by Roberta Hill.
Yeah, it's a fascinating read.
It really is. It's titled The Hidden Cost of a 5-Day Niagara Getaway. And we are basically going to look under the hood of modern travel to examine the exact spreadsheets, the complex loyalty point strategies, and those insidious hidden fees.
The ones that just sneak up on you.
Right, all the things required just to keep a modern domestic getaway under a budget of $150 per person per day.
Which is not easy. And I think the author, Roberta Hill, uses this specific trip as a sort of lens to capture a feeling that really resonates with anyone trying to book time away right now.
Oh, 100%.
She points out that travel hasn't necessarily become dramatically expensive in one, massive, noticeable leap. Instead, it's become what she calls quietly expensive.
Quietly expensive. I love that phrasing.
Yeah, it's basically death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
I mean, you are dealing with dynamic pricing algorithms that change room rates by the hour.
Ugh, the worst.
Right, and mandatory parking fees in places with massive empty lots, absurd local tourism taxes, it all adds up.
So her original plan was actually to spend a couple weeks in British Columbia, right?
Exactly. But the initial sticker shock of that Western trip forced a total pivot. She decided to do a shoulder season domestic getaway in Ontario instead, where she kind of hoped the financial stakes would be a bit lower.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we can even get to the destination itself, we really have to look at the first major hurdle of her budget, which is, simply getting there.
Right, the transportation puzzle.
And I have to push back on the author's transportation choices right out of the gate here.
Oh,
Yeah, so first, she uses Avianca Life Miles to book a one-way flight into Billy Bishop Toronto City Airport. For those of you who aren't knee-deep in these weird travel forums, Avianca is a South American airline.
right.
Why on earth is she using a South American loyalty program for a short domestic hop in Canada? It just seems incredibly convoluted.
Well, it sounds crazy, but this is actually a classic travel hacking mechanism.
Yeah.
See, Avianca is part of the Star Alliance network,
Yeah.
which means their miles can be used to book flights on partner airlines, like Air Canada. So travel hackers leverage programs like Avianca Life Miles because their specific redemption charts often feature these sweet spots.
Ah, I see.
Yeah. In this case, short-haul domestic flights require significantly fewer points through the South American partner than if you tried to book that exact same flight directly through Air Canada's own loyalty program.
Wow.
It's essentially geographical arbitrage.
Okay, well, that makes the one-way flight downtown make a lot more sense, actually. But then for the return trip, she just abandons the airline strategy entirely and books a 5-hour train ride back to Montreal.
Yep, she takes the Via Rail.
Wait. You have limited days off. A 5-hour train ride is basically half a vacation day just sitting in a seat.
Yeah.
Isn't an hour-long flight always objectively better than burning 5 hours on a train?
You'd think so, right?
I mean, an hour flight gets you home so you can actually unpack and relax before Monday.
It seems like simple math, but we really need to dismantle what the author refers to as the flight time fallacy.
The flight time fallacy.
Yeah. The assumption is that 1 hour in the air equals 1 hour of travel. But that totally ignores the door-to-door reality.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Right. That 1 hour flight is actually a minimum 4-hour ordeal. Just think about the mechanics of it. You have to travel from your accommodation to the airport.
Which takes time and money.
Exactly. Then you arrive 2 hours early for check-in and security. You deal with the inevitable boarding delays, sit on the tarmac, fly for an hour, wait 30 minutes at the baggage carousel, and then...
Then you still have to navigate transit from the arrival airport to your actual front door.
Precisely. It is exhausting.
And the case study points out that Montreal's Central Station is literally a 15-minute walk from her house.
Which completely rewrites the mathematical and psychological equation of the trip. The train ride takes 5 hours of elapsed time, yes, but it is uninterrupted, usable time.
Right.
As she puts it, the train is civilized. You just walk on, you sit down immediately, you can open a laptop and work, you can read a book, you can just stare out the window.
And crucially, no one is making you take your shoes off or confiscating your toothpaste at a security checkpoint.
Exactly. She explicitly states that there comes a point in life where paying slightly more or taking slightly longer simply to preserve your sanity is the ultimate travel hack.
Honestly, that makes total sense. And she preserved her sanity on the train, but she also scored a major win on the rental car, too.
She really did.
She utilized her Hertz Gold membership to lock in a cancelable rate of just under 50 Canadian dollars a day before gas. And the context she gives here is fascinating.
Yeah, tell us about that.
She says that 5 years ago, she would have considered $50 a day for a standard rental car to be absolutely absurd. But because she had just been staring down rental car quotes in British Columbia that were hovering around $100 a day, she booked the Ontario rate immediately.
It just shows how the baseline for what constitutes a bargain has fundamentally shifted. I mean,
Yeah.
the modern traveler's mindset often defaults to, well, at least it's not worse.
Yeah, at least it's not $100. So the transportation puzzle is solved. But all that careful logistics planning immediately collides with the reality of post-pandemic accommodations.
Oh, the Jenga tower.
Yes. Think of modern travel planning like a high-stakes game of Jenga. You carefully stack these interlocking pieces, right?
Right.
A flight here, a hotel there, a credit card promotion over here.
But if you pull just one block out from the bottom,
A completely different trip scheduled for 6 months from now collapses.
what's fascinating here is what the author terms the ripple effect. This really exposes the dark underbelly of the points game that glossy travel blogs rarely explain to beginners.
No, they make it seem so easy.
Right. So let's look at the mechanics of her original booking. She wanted to stay in the picturesque town of Niagara-on-the-Lake, but the boutique hotel prices there were literally double the cost of the main commercial strip in Niagara Falls.
So she compromised.
She did. She booked 2 nights at a Wyndham Hotels property in Niagara. However, she didn't just pick Wyndham randomly.
Of course not.
She booked it specifically to earn the final few points she needed to trigger a free night reward for a completely different upcoming fall trip to Vancouver.
She is essentially treating her summer vacation as a side hustle to fund her autumn vacation.
Exactly.
She is managing 2 completely separate itineraries simultaneously just to make the math work. But about 2 weeks before her June trip, the Jenga tower wobbles.
Yep, the dreaded email arrives.
Wyndham sends her an email. Due to an internal system issue on their end, they are overbooked and have to move her reservation to a Marriott International Courtyard down the street.
And, I mean, they covered the cost, right? There were no additional charges to her credit card.
Right. On the surface, that sounds like a minor inconvenience, maybe even a win. She notes the Marriott was perfectly fine. They even upgraded her room later because she happened to hold Marriott Gold status.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and she hilariously describes the decor as being designed by people who deeply respect the color beige.
So it was a perfectly adequate room, but it entirely shattered the Vancouver Point strategy.
Completely shattered it.
Because she didn't actually stay at the Wyndham. She didn't earn the Wyndham points. So because of that one external administrative change, something entirely out of her control, this 5-day Niagara trip spilled over into her fall planning.
Oh, man.
She had to go back to the drawing board, reassess her Vancouver airport hotel, cancel other reservations, and look for new credit card transfer windows.
And for anyone listening who doesn't know, a transfer window is a limited time promotion where a bank might offer a 20 or 30% bonus if you move your credit card points to a specific hotel partner before a certain deadline.
Right. And missing her Wyndham points meant she now had to hunt for a new transfer bonus to cover the Vancouver gap.
The administrative burden is just exhausting. I mean, she summarizes this reality perfectly in the case study. She writes, quote, "Travel today often resembles a giant spreadsheet held together with loyalty programs, transfer bonuses, timing windows, cancellation policies, and mild emotional instability."
Mild emotional instability captures it perfectly. I think it highlights how hyper-connected our consumer choices have become. You know, when you book a room today, you are no longer just securing a place to sleep.
What are you doing?
You are actively managing a portfolio of volatile digital assets.
That is so bleak, but so true. But here's where it gets really interesting, though, because Toronto hotel prices in June were, in her words, laughable. And because her point strategy for a chain hotel in Niagara fell apart, she had to completely rethink her accommodation strategy for the rest of the trip.
Right. She had to pivot.
And this forced constraint led to what she calls the smartest financial decision of the entire getaway.
Which is funny because the pivot she executes here requires overriding a lot of ingrained traveler vanity.
It totally does. She completely ditched the idea of staying in pretty boutique hotels. Instead, she logged into her bank's travel portal and used RBC Avion points, which operate on a fixed travel redemption chart, making them great for non-chain bookings.
A very smart move.
Yeah, and she used them to secure a no-frills, independent, 2-star motor motel just off the main strip in Niagara.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, this represents a crucial psychological shift for the modern traveler.
How so?
Well, by actively letting go of the aesthetic, surrendering the grand lobby, the thread count guarantees, and those decorative hotel cushions she admits she would barely look at anyway. She saved roughly 250 Canadian dollars.
That's a lot of money on a short trip.
It is. But more importantly, the downgrade yielded incredible practical advantages that luxury hotels often fail to provide.
Oh, like what?
By calling the front desk directly, she secured a ground floor room, which completely eliminates the need to drag luggage up flights of stairs or wait for a slow elevator.
That's always a bonus.
Furthermore, she specifically requested a room with 2 separate queen beds instead of one shared king bed. She notes that sleep quality is one of the biggest challenges when traveling, and physically separating beds drastically reduces the risk of disturbing your travel companion.
Yes. And the ultimate victory of the motor motel. 0 hotel parking fees. You just pull your car right up to your door.
Exactly. I want everyone listening to think about your own travel habits for a moment. When you book a room, are you paying for a curated aesthetic, or are you paying for a base camp?
A base camp. I like that.
The author's core philosophy really shifted during this trip. She explicitly chose to spend less money on impressing herself with her accommodations, opting instead to allocate that capital toward experiences that actually translate into memories.
Treating the room solely as a base camp. I love it. But even with that $250 saved by pivoting to the motel, the day-to-day reality on the ground immediately threatened to consume her budget.
Oh, for sure.
I was looking closely at her meticulous spreadsheet, and I have to push back on one highly specific line item.
Which one?
She dedicated a full 5% of her total trip budget entirely to coffee.
Ah, yes. The coffee budget.
5%. I mean, I appreciate a good roast as much as anyone, but dedicating that much of a strict $150 a day budget to caffeine seems wildly disproportionate, maybe even a little irresponsible for a budget-conscious trip.
I hear you. But this raises an important question about how we budget for joy.
Budget for joy.
Yeah. When you are ruthlessly restricting yourself in major categories like choosing a 2-star motor motel over a resort, you must protect the small daily rituals that make the experience actually feel like a vacation.
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
For the author and her companion, that non-negotiable ritual required sourcing their morning and late afternoon cappuccinos from a highly rated independent local spot called Italian Ice.
Oh, and didn't they get an affogato, too?
They did. They even treated themselves to an affogato. She openly acknowledges how ridiculous the math looks on paper, but she deliberately quarantined that money into its own untouchable budget category. It was essential for their morale.
Budgeting for joy to prevent vacation burnout. I can see the logic, especially given the context she provides about the local dining scene.
It wasn't great.
No, she notes that food in the immediate Niagara tourist zone was a brutal combination of being highly expensive and remarkably low quality. And because that 2-star motor motel lacked a kitchen or even a basic microwave, her usual travel strategy of offsetting costs by eating grocery store meals in the room was completely derailed.
Right, they had to eat out.
Yeah, they had no choice.
And see, the coffee budget was a known, intentional expense. The real danger in this budget lies in the quiet expenses that the destination extracts from you by design.
Oh, like the parking.
The parking trap in Niagara is a masterclass in this.
The parking logistics sound like an absolute nightmare.
It illustrates why the budget is so fragile. While her independent motel offered free parking right outside her door, that Marriott Courtyard she was unexpectedly moved to charged $25 a day.
$25 a day just to park your car at the hotel you're paying to sleep at.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why does a hotel surrounded by massive, empty suburban lots charge $25 a day for parking? Because base room rates are constantly suppressed by the competitive algorithms of online travel agencies.
So they have to make up the difference somewhere.
Right. To make up their profit margins, major consolidated hotel brands rely heavily on inescapable ancillary fees. Furthermore, she points out that free street parking in Niagara is virtually non-existent unless you hold a local resident permit.
And if you think you can just drive to the scenic viewpoints, the parking meters along the parkway demand $8 an hour.
$8 an hour?
It's wild. Alternatively, you can buy the Niagara Parks Daily Parking Pass, which runs $31.86 plus tax.
Huh.
There is just no way to experience the area by car without opening your wallet at every single stop.
The broader economic reality that emerges from her spreadsheet is sobering. I mean, in the current travel economy, transportation and accommodations can easily consume 30% of a budget each.
Wow.
That means 60% of your total allotted money evaporates before you have eaten a single meal, bought a coffee, or engaged in a single vacation activity. It forces massive, uncomfortable trade-offs.
Which sets up the climax of the case study perfectly, how she actually spent her remaining time and money. Because despite the incredibly tight budget, despite the pervasive parking traps and the subpar restaurant scene, she still managed to extract genuine joy and relaxation from this trip.
She did. And she achieved this by being fiercely, almost ruthlessly selective about her itinerary.
Yes, she successfully curated the experience by understanding exactly what to ignore. Let's look at her strict do-not-do list.
It's a good list.
She completely skipped the $15 Ferris wheel. She skipped the Skylon Tower observation deck because locals warned her the view did not justify the admission price.
Smart move.
She skipped the Butterfly Conservatory purely due to the entrance cost, and she entirely bypassed the casinos, making a dry note that playing blackjack is a luxury her travel budget can simply no longer accommodate.
Her discipline here stems from a stark contrast she draws between the natural wonder of the area and the commercial development surrounding it.
Oh, her descriptions are great.
She writes beautifully about the magnificent power of the falls themselves, but her description of the main tourist artery, Clifton Hill, is devastatingly sharp.
Oh, I loved this part.
She describes the commercial zone as looking, quote, like Las Vegas and a wax museum had a child together.
It paints such a vivid picture. So if you are actively avoiding the neon wax museum vibes and the $8 an hour parking meters, what actually makes the cut? The winning itinerary is surprisingly low-tech.
It really is.
First, she actually put her phone down and talked to people in real life. While getting that expensive daily coffee at Italian Ice, she struck up a conversation with some local cyclists.
Best way to get advice.
Yeah, and they strongly advised her to download the Guide Along app while driving the Niagara Parkway.
That app is brilliant. It utilizes GPS to provide audio commentary and, crucially, directing them away from the synthetic tourist traps and toward genuinely beautiful, free, natural experiences.
So following the app and the locals, they explored the free botanical gardens. They discovered a stunning, unobstructed view of the gorge at the Whirlpool Aero Park, specifically pulling over at a quiet spot opposite the local golf course.
So much better than a crowded tourist deck.
Oh, absolutely. And instead of settling for overpriced, mediocre tourist food, they followed another local recommendation and booked a proper traditional afternoon tea at McFarland House.
Which offered a high-quality experience for a predictable fixed price.
Exactly. And they also deployed the $250 they saved by downgrading their hotel room. They invested it into a full-day wine tour booked through Travelzoo.
The mechanism of this choice is so strategic.
How so?
Well, booking a whole-day tour means a shuttle picks you up, you get a full day of wine tasting, and nobody has to act as the designated driver.
Right.
You are completely bypassing the exorbitant parking fees and the navigation stress. They visited 3 smaller boutique vineyards, including Gretzky Estates. And they specifically targeted vineyards whose production is too small to be mass-distributed in local liquor stores.
Right. They even purchased unique vintages to bring home. And then, to cap off the trip, right before heading to the train station, they walked to Portage Bakery.
Another local spot.
Yep. Again, recommended by locals and conveniently located just a block from their motel. They stocked up on high-quality snacks for the journey back. It is a masterclass in prioritizing capital.
It really is. By bypassing the engineered synthetic experiences, she retained enough budget to invest in authentic local interactions, quality goods, and the actual natural beauty of the region.
So what does this all mean? The trip itself was a definitive success. She stayed mostly within her strict budget, she discovered incredible local spots, and she drank great wine.
But
then the journey home occurs, the abrupt return to reality, and the logistics were absolutely grueling.
just a nightmare.
First, the midday Saturday traffic driving the rental car from Niagara back to Toronto was horrendous. Then, when they finally drop the car and get to downtown Toronto, they face a new modern travel hurdle.
Oh, the luggage issue.
Yes, most major train stations have completely removed their public luggage lockers for security reasons, so they were forced to download and pay for third-party apps like Bounce or Stasher.
I've had to use those.
Yeah, they allow you to store your bags in the back rooms of random convenience stores just so they could walk around the city unburdened while waiting for their departure.
And then the train itself.
Yeah.
The civilized, stress-free option she championed at the beginning of the trip ultimately betrayed them.
It really did. They faced a 1-hour mechanical delay right out of the gate, requiring everyone to switch tracks and board a different train.
Oh, no.
Then, halfway home to Montreal, they were stopped on the tracks, stuck waiting behind a massive freight train that was also experiencing mechanical issues. They didn't drag their bags through their front door until 1 a.m.
But, there is a beautifully ironic, almost tragic silver lining to that grueling return journey.
Oh, please tell me.
Because they arrived more than 2 hours late, Via Rail's customer service automatically issued them a 50% points voucher valid for a future trip.
Oh, no.
Yep, the spreadsheet cycle instantly begins all over again. A new points balance to track, a new set of transfer windows to monitor, a new trip to optimize.
The Jenga tower immediately starts rebuilding itself on the dining room table.
Exactly, which leaves you, the listener, with a final provocative thought to mull over. We began this deep dive discussing the comforting illusion that a simple 4-day domestic getaway is supposed to be easy.
Right.
But if taking a short trip just a few hours down the road now requires the exact same tactical planning, loyalty point arbitrage, and spreadsheet wizardry as a multi-week international expedition.
At what point does it become too much?
Exactly. At what point does the sheer stress of managing the logistics outweigh the relaxation of the getaway itself? Have we optimized the actual vacation out of our vacations?